Hello, fellow Guardians. Grandmasters are here, and it's time to start gilding that Conqueror seal. In this video, I'm going to bring you this unkillable Strand Hunter build that will make those Grandmaster Nightfalls a piece of cake. But first, while you're here, smash that sub button, click that thumbs up like, ring that notification bell to keep you notified of future builds, and leave a comment below. I do respond to all comments. I also do stream at least 3 days a week on all major platforms, whether it be Twitch, Kick, or right here on YouTube. Swing by the platform you're choosing, hang out, and let's run some content together. I do play with viewers. Now, let's jump straight into the build. With this build, we'll be mixing subclass keywords, making us the ultimate weapon. With this build, you'll have infinite devour, infinite woven mail, which will mitigate major damage, and you'll be able to spam abilities while making the hardest content easy mode. And on top of that, we'll be getting our super back in 2 minutes or less, which just cause devastation everywhere we go. All right, let's get into the abilities, aspects, and fragments. So for the first ability, we're gonna use Marksman's Dodge to reload our weapon. We don't really need Gambler's Dodge. We're not gonna be needing to get our melee back very quickly, but to get it back quick enough as is. So we're gonna use Marksman's Dodge just to keep that damage going. Triple jump, you can use whatever jump you want, but triple jump is the thing to use. Threaded Spike is just a really, really good damage melee where you throw a rope dart to bounce between enemies, severing them. And severing's really good because severing makes it to where they take more damage. You can catch it, and when you do catch it, you will get melee energy, but if you don't worry about it. And for this, a lot of people will be using shackles for Grandmasters, and if you want to switch to using that, that's fine. But I like using the grapple because the grapple melee is just really powerful. We'll be able to create a lot of orbs with this, and those orbs will be giving us woven mail. Those orbs will be giving us extra weapon damage, and we'll be able to get out of fights very easily with the grapple. So I'm keeping the grapple on because I think actually it helps out a lot more. And we do have the opportunity with our artifact, which I will show in a little bit, to still create suspended targets. All right, on to the aspects. We're gonna be using Widow's Silk, and this will give us an additional grenade charge, and our grappling hook creates a grapple tangle at the grapple point. So therefore we'll have another one of those tangles, which we will use with Whirling Maelstrom. Destroying a tangle will weave a violent writhing mass of strand fibers. The strand mass seeks out and damages targets, emitting unraveling projectiles when it defeats them. So this is that little whirly bird, that fidget spinner, whatever you want to call the thing, that goes around and goes from Beyblade, goes from enemy to enemy, kind of like a void soul, but much bigger, and just destroys things. It looks like Saturn. There's that little planet just going around destroying enemies. And so us using our grapple will actually cause more tangles for us. Plus we'll be causing tangles all over the place anyway. So these will be doing a lot of the dirty work for us, thus helping us kill enemies and getting some energy and whatnot back. All right, on to the fragments. First and foremost, Threaded Generation, dealing damage, generates grenade energy. We're gonna be dealing a lot of damage. We're gonna get those grenades back as soon as possible to keep grappling and keep doing that grapple melee. So we really need that grenade energy come back as much as possible. Thread of Warding. Picking up an orb of power grants woven mail, and as we know, woven mail mitigates so much damage. We'll be creating so many orbs that we will constantly have woven mail up, which is huge. Up next, Thread of Fury. Damaging targets with a tangle grants melee energy. So we'll be getting our melee back, our thread spike back constantly because we'll be using tangles over and over again. Whether it be throwing them or turning them into those whirly birds, we'll just be using it constantly. So we'll constantly be getting melee energy back. So we'll constantly have melee energy. And lastly, Thread of Transmutation. While you have woven mail, weapon final blows create a tangle. So once again, we'll be getting that woven mail from the orb of power. We'll be killing an enemy, we'll create a tangle. We'll throw the tangle, it'll hurt them, create another orb of power. You see the cycle here. It's just gonna be damage all over, create orbs all over, and we're just gonna keep our woven mail up at all times. And at the same time, keep our little whirly guys going around and destroying enemies for us. All right, and I know I mentioned Devour, and how we're gonna get Devour is the exotic we're gonna use for this build, the Buried Bloodline that you get from the Warlord's Ruin dungeon. You can get it, then you can get the Catalyst. It's a really neat exotic. It's a sidearm, and as you know, anti-barrier is sidearms this season, so really good to have an anti-barrier sidearm. And this one's really unique because it's a crossbow, but the cool thing about it is it double fires tracking bolts. Landing bolts leeches health from the target, which creates Devour. Multiple final blows with this weapon grants Devour to the wielder. So like, we're gonna go and we're gonna kill a few enemies real quick with the crossbow, and we're gonna get Devour. And then everything we do, we can kill with abilities, we can kill with any other weapon, and we're gonna keep that Devour up all the time. So we're gonna kind of dual wield here with, like I said, the Void Devour with the Strand Woven Mail and just destroy everything on the field and not die. You can just stand there and just keep taking hits. Now, once you do get the buried bloodline, I do recommend you get the catalyst, because while Devour is active, this weapon weakens on hits. So you can proc Devour and you can weaken the boss or weaken a few enemies and then switch to your Rufus or switch to your abilities and just dominate them, because they're getting a 15% weakening while you're getting healed on top of everything. It's just a really cool weapon. It's very synergistic. It makes it to where you can mix and match. Now you can use the buried bloodline with other void builds, but I like using this with ideally with a Strand or Stasis build, because they use Stasis or Strand in the main column, so you can have this in your second column and still create orbs if you're a Strand Hunter or a Stasis Hunter. But I think it's got really good synergy with a lot of different things. All right, for my primary weapon, I'm gonna use the Rufus Fury auto rifle, which is good against Overload champions this season. Plus, it's just a really good auto rifle, and things in our artifact will make us get unraveling rounds and other things. But I like to use this a lot because we're gonna get orbs, not only from using Rufus Fury, it's one we're gonna use a lot. We're gonna get a lot of kills from, we're gonna get unraveling rounds, we're gonna be able to burst down a lot of enemies, because don't forget, we'll be weakening enemies from Bloodline as well. Plus, we'll be constantly healing and we'll be diving in and punching. We'll have that woven mail. So having Rufus Fury, having a Strand primary weapon is what makes the buried bloodline so good on a Strand or Stasis build, is that you can kind of mix two different elements at the same time. Now, instead of Rufus Fury, you can use any other kind of Strand weapon you want to use here to synergize with Strand and make sure you get the unraveling rounds. I just like this because we are going into Grandmasters, so I do want to have something to stop barrier champions, something to stop overload champions, something to stop unstoppables, and this way I have overloads and barriers covered. Now, lastly, I'm going to be using my Apex Predator bait and switch rocket launcher. Now, it is solar, but you will see in the artifact the reason why I'm using this is solar as well. See, I'm using 3 different types of energy, and that's what's really synergistic about this build. And I use this because it's going to put out a lot of damage. Plus, we have stuff like overload rocket launch. We have agent ordnance if you want to do more damage. So rocket launchers are in a really good place. Now you can switch this out with a Strand rocket launcher, with a void rocket launcher if you want to do that. But I just think this is going to cause us to do a lot more damage and get a lot more kills and control the battlefield a lot more. All right, let's get into the artifact mods. We were talking about them in that first column. You can use whatever you would like here. Of course, we're using anti-barrier sidearms, and we're using overload auto rifles. Now, if for some reason you didn't want to use your Rufus Fury as your auto rifle, which is totally fine, you could throw on a hand cannon, have unstoppable hand cannon if you like. Now for the second column, I would like to use blast radius, rapid final blows of rocket launchers, grant armor charge. So if we use our rocket launcher, we kill a group of adds, we will get armor charge. Armor charge is huge. From whence you came, increases ability to take in and scoring combatants. Enough said. Torch, while radiant, deal increased weapon damage to combatants affected by Strand and Stasis debuffs. Now, you're not necessarily going to be radiant, you don't necessarily need this, but you will be causing those debuffs. So if you cause those debuffs and then you switch over to your solar weapon, or you're just doing your regular weapons and somebody makes you radiant, which somebody most likely will in your team, you'll be able to do more damage. And then up next, wishing to being, while your super is nearly fully charged, ability final blows grant orbs of power. Wearing season the wish armor decreases super amount threshold. So you're almost at your super amount, you start killing enemies with your abilities, boom, orbs of power. As much orbs of power, the better. Up next, unraveling rounds. Picking an orb of power grants Strand weapons unraveling rounds. So unraveling rounds are amazing. You go and you take in, all of a sudden your Rufus is shooting unraveling rounds. You're going to unravel your enemies. You're going to turn them into tangle. Up next, overload rocket launchers. Rocket launchers are especially effective against overload champions. We're going to be going in against overloads, barriers, unstoppables, and different things in Grandmasters. So we want to have a way to stop overloads. So having an overload rocket launcher will allow you to free up your auto rifle if you wanted to, and change to an unstoppable hand cannon, which I might depending on the activity. And up next, we have Dragon's Bite. Breaking combatant shield with your Strand or Stasis weapon has a chance to suspend or freeze that combatant. So our Rufus, when we're sitting there breaking shields with our Rufus, because all we're really using is our bloodline is get the Devour started to get some weakenings on enemies, we're going to use our Rufus, and it's going to occasionally suspend combatants. And if we're wearing Season of the Wish armor, it'll do it even more. Up next, Horde Shuttle. Damaging unraveling targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a Threadling. So not only are we going to, suspending enemies, not only are we going to be killing them and turning them into little Beyblades, but we're also going to be shooting Threadlings out when we kill enemies. This is just going to make Strand so OP. You're going to see things dying and just green stuff everywhere. And lastly, if you're in a group, which you will be in a Grandmaster, you want to use Agent Ordnance. Firing a rocket launcher consumes 1 stack of armor charge, granting increased damage and reload speed until you reload or stow your rocket launcher. So this will allow you to do more damage with your rocket launcher. Yes, it'll kill some of the other things that you're doing if you have your surge mods on and you have font mods on, but that extra damage that you'll get by unloading right there on the boss or whatever you're unloading on is super key. Now, if you are alone, forego that and go for solo operative while you are the only member of your fire team. You deal increased damage to all combatants. This will allow you to do major damage in solo things if you need to. All right, let's go into the stats real quick, then we'll go over all the armor and the armor mods. So with this, you want to get as close to 100 resilience as possible, 100 discipline, 100 mobility. But what I will say is that you don't necessarily need it. Yes, 100 resilience is great, but you will be getting so much extra resilience from 𝕃𝕊𝕃𝕆, and it'll be hard to kill you. Plus, having Devour constantly healing you, it'll be near impossible to kill you. Plus, you'll get your abilities back so quickly that even if you don't have them on 100, you'll be getting them back super, super quick. So you can afford to put a little bit more into recovery, to put a little bit more in mobility, put a little bit more in intellect, a little bit more in strength. You don't necessarily have to have discipline and resilience maxed out on 100. I like having resilience at 100. I like having discipline at 100. Of course, you want to get those as close as possible, and mobility is a strong third for hunters. But the way this build is set up, if you do not get everything to 100, do not worry. You're going to have your abilities up almost all of the time. All right, let's get into the exotic armor piece that this is built around, the Star Eater scales. This was going to allow us to keep our super up and get it up within 2 minutes. And the Hunter super is absolutely phenomenal. Beast of Light. You gain additional super energy from orbs of power you pick up. While your super energy is full, picking up an orb of power overcharges your super, causing you to gain a burst of healing when cast and bonus to your super damage. At maximum overcharge, you also gain an overshield. So we'll be creating so many orbs. It's going to take about 30 to 36 orbs, depending on the power of the orbs. If they're a double orb, single orb, you will be able to make your super energy fill up quicker. It also overpowers your super. It also heals you. It gives you an overshield. So not only are you going to get your super back super quick in under 2 minutes, if you don't pop it immediately, you pick up more orb, it's going to make that super even more powerful. It's just an amazing, amazing, amazing exotic. It's been used a lot since it came out. It's been used a lot with Strand. So it's no surprise whatsoever that we are using this with this. It is just an absolutely phenomenal exotic that just keeps your super up and gives you super back and gives you extra damage and health. It's just crazy. And it kind of looks cool. So that is what we're building it around, guys. And we will get into the armor mods up next. All right, on to the armor mods. And as I always say, for your general armor mods, use whatever you need in order to slot in the stats that you want. And if you have to adjust something, don't worry. Play with the build and try to adjust something with your other mods in order to make them fit how you need to fit with the energy that you have. So since we're already on the legs, let's start with the leg armor mods. First, using Void Weapon Surge, it's going to make it to where our Buried Bloodline does more damage when we have armor charge. We're going to use Strand Weapon Surge, so it's going to make our Rufus Fury do more damage when we have armor charge. And then last, Recuperation replenishes health each time you pick up more powers. We'll be getting a little bit of health back every time we pick up more power. And like you will see, we'll be picking up and creating so many orbs of power. Our health will constantly be going up between that, Devour, and not even getting hurt with 𝕃𝕊𝕃𝕃 on top of it. All right, as for the helmet mods, we're going to be running double harmonic siphon, so we get a little bit more powerful orbs when we are using that Rufus's Fury. Now you can take these off and use something else. You can go and use special ammo finder if you didn't want to get any super energy with hands-on that we're going to be using. You could change that to Void if you'd rather be using your Void weapon more. But I like the double harmonic siphon because we're actually going to be using the Rufus a lot more. The Buried Bloodline is more to get Devour started, to break championship barriers, and in order to get some weakening effects going on. And we'll be having hands-on gain bonus super energy on melee kills. We'll be using our Threaded Spike a lot. We'll be using our grapple dash melee a lot. So we'll be getting a lot of super energy back with that as well. All right, up next, we have our gauntlets. First, we have the Focusing Strike mod. Grants class ability energy when you cause damage with power melee attack. We'll be using our power melee attack a lot. So we'll be getting that class energy back in order to dodge and reload our weapons. Up next, we have your grenade final blows, create orbs of power with firepower. So every time we use that grapple punch, we'll be getting an orb of power. So which will grant 𝕃𝕊𝕃𝕃 and surges. And as you've seen before, it's going to do a lot for us. And then lastly, fastball doesn't do anything for us. I just hate having that one slot empty. So don't pay attention to that little guy. All right, up next, we have our chest piece. And other than charged up, which increases the maximum number of stacks of armor charge you carry by one, because we'll be using our armor charge a lot for the surges and other things. So armor charge is going to be huge, and having armor charge is going to be huge. So having that is going to be big. Other than that, of your other resistance mods, you can use whatever you want. You can use a melee resistance because you are going to be up close. You can use, arc resistance. You're going to get arc activity, solar, void, whatever it is. Just change your resistance based on what activity you're going against. And then lastly, on our cloak mods, we're going to be using the Reaper mod to show that using class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power. I think it has like a 10 or 15 second like timer that you have to get a kill within that time in order to get the orb of power. But another way to get orb of power to keep everything going in this build. And then lastly, we're going to use time dilation. Your decaying armor charge has a longer duration. I think it moves it from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. But that extra 5 seconds is huge. You get 5 more seconds of surge. You get 5 more seconds of, you know, that rocket from Argent Ordnance. Just having your armor charge up as long as possible is just huge and key. This armor charge does so much for you. And basically, guys, the gameplay loop, start with your Buried Bloodline, get a few kills, get your Devour, switch over to your Rufus, start mowing things down, throw your abilities out there, dive in and punch, just keep Devour up. If Devour runs out, go back to your Buried Bloodline and switch back. And then when it's boss time, go your Buried Bloodline, get a little bit of weakening effect on the boss, then go to, you know, your Rufus for a little bit, then your bait and switch rocket launcher and just burn the bad guy down. It's just a really simple cycle. Just as long as you keep Devour up, everything else, you know, just keeps going. As long as you're getting kills, Devour constantly stays up. As long as you keep orbs of power, ℂ𝕆𝕃𝕆 stays up, and your abilities stay up pretty much 24/7, as you see in the background play right now. And that's it, everybody. That is the build. I am so excited for Grandmasters to come back. It's some of my most favorite content to go into. Stack up some materials so I can mix some more crazy builds, and I have some out-of-the-box builds that are coming up soon. I can't wait to hop on later today and start doing some Grandmasters. Why don't you swing on by the stream, whether it be on Twitch, Kick, or YouTube. We can run some Grandmasters together. We can run some all kinds of content. If you want to run a raid, you want to go run Warlord's Ruin or trying to get you the exotic, let me know. Let's go hang out and let's play a game or two. You will love this build once you've tried it, so I recommend you try it once you get the Buried Bloodline. The dim link for this loadout is in the description below. Leave a message in the comments and tell me what you think of this build. If you tried it, what build you want to see next. Sim, you're crazy for using Buried Bloodline and never let you in my fire team. Let me know. I am working on a Titan build coming up and another Hunter build as well. So I hope to run some Grandmasters to get some materials to make sure that I can keep making all of these amazing builds for you guys. Yeah, any suggestions you want to see a build, message it below. I do respond to all comments. And like I said, swing by one of the live platforms below. I hope to see you there. And until then, feel free to click on one of the videos you see on your screen right now for some more fire builds. It's your boy Old Man Sim out. Peace. World